All right, welcome to Google Doc Forms Part 1, where I show you how to create a form. Go ahead and go to your Google Docs account and log in. It's at docs.google.com if you don't have that bookmarked. You'll see your page come up, and you're going to want to come up to Create New, and here you're going to choose a form. Now, when you do a form, it's actually going to create the form and a spreadsheet to collect the results. All right, the screen that comes up is going to go ahead and give you kind of a framework for you to make your form. The first thing is title the form. This is actually what will be the title of the document form and the spreadsheet that it later creates. I'm just going to put sample form. The second and last part of the header to your form is here, and it's optional. It's for you to include any information that will help people finish or complete your form. After filling that out, I always like to come up here and click Save. If it is dark and just says Save like this, changes have not been saved. But if it is gray and says Saved, you're good to go. All right, now let's get to the heart of your form, the questions. I'm going to go through each type of question, also how to get in and edit, duplicate, and trash any, along with being able to move questions. Let's start out. I have my first question here. Now, if I needed to add more questions, all I need to do is come up here to the Add Item button. If I click that, it gives me a list of all types. Now, if you decide at some point that you want to change the question after you started entering it, no problem. You can change that in the actual question on the form. Let's go ahead and investigate a text item question. That's the first one I like to do because it's the one that I add name to. It's always the one I forget too. Now this is optional. If you want student results to be anonymous, that is perfectly okay. Or if you want to give them the option, every single question has this little area right here that says make this a required question. That will not allow them to click the submit button until they have finished that item. Now let's go ahead and finish completing our first question. See the help text. Most people, I just leave that blank unless I want to maybe add a word bank or any other tips or hints for the students to complete that question. If at any time I want to make or change the question type, I can do that by dragging down here. I'm leaving it as text. And then that shows you the size of their answer box that they'll be getting. It will hold up to 120 characters for just a simple text box question. Now I am done with it. I'm going to go ahead and click Done, and then it's going to show you what it will look like. And there is your question on your form. All right, let's move on to question 2. To get inside of a question to edit it that's already there, you either double click anywhere on this yellow area or click once on the pencil and it brings up the edit box. Now this next type of question that I'm going to do, I'm going to change this to paragraph text. There are two types of form questions that require text. This one is anytime you want or expect an answer that is more than 120 characters long is when you would do a paragraph one. I do this a lot when I want people to submit links to me because I never know how long those are going to be. Again, I can put help text if I want, but I'm not going to in this case. I'm going to scroll down and I can make this a required question if I want, and I'm going to and click Done. Now, anytime you make something a required question, there's going to be a little star here. So you can quickly look to see whether or not you remembered to set like name to be a required question, which I did not. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up, make it a required question, and click Done. A little bit more about the text-based questions as you're considering what type of question you want to put up there for students. The one thing you have to remember when you're getting the results back, and we're going to show you there's some really cool result charts that are made. When you're just dealing with text, you can't sort them that way. They just kind of get put together in paragraph form for you to look at. But if you want a quick pie graph, bar graph, line graph, you're going to have to use the other types of questions, which we're going to get to next. Notice I have no more questions here. I need to add an item. The item I'm going to add next is multiple choice. Multiple choice is one of my favorite question types. I'm going to give you a tour of multiple choice as I fill one out here. I put in my question, what's your favorite color? I don't need any help text with this. I have it chosen as multiple choice. Let's look over here. Anytime I put a multiple choice question up, I have the ability to choose to go to another page based on that answer. An example of that might be if you have an English test and a Spanish test or form that they need to fill out. That if they choose this one, it goes to the English, that one it goes to Spanish. You can also do a choose your own adventure. Now that gets pretty sophisticated and you'll want to get up on just regular forms before you get into all those pages, but it is possible and it can be lots of fun. All right, let's start adding our options. Anytime you click in here, I'm going to go ahead and put my first one. Now, multiple choice are radio buttons. You can see that right here. Anytime I see a radio button when I'm filling out a form, I know I can only choose one. Anytime I see a checkbox and more around it, I know I can choose more than one. I'm going to click down here and watch what happens underneath it. Boop, another option pops up. This does not have to be filled in. If it is not filled in, it won't count on there, so don't worry about it. In blue, I can hit enter or return to get the next one. Orange. Now this is really a neat choice here. On multiple choice, I can click add other. This allows them to have a different choice, and it gives them a text box which will allow up to 120 characters to be entered into it. All right, let's come down here. Do I want to make it a required one? Sure. I'm going to check it and I'm going to click on done. I do like to come up here, and whenever I see that save is black after I've made some brilliant addition, I click on save. I'm going to come down. I'm not going to continue to add items, but you just come here and continue to add. I'm going to go through each of the last ones by actually changing this multiple choice one. Remember, to get into edit, I double click or click on the pencil once, and let's take a look what happens. Now notice that this go to page will disappear when I come down to check boxes. Now checkboxes here allows me, the user, to choose more than one. So up here I might change this question to an S after there, and I can say choose as many as you want. Again, I can make it an other here that they can put their own information if I want, and continue to make it required. Let's go ahead and go down to choose from a list. I do like this one, especially as a replacement to a word bank, because the feature and the ability to duplicate this one, if I have a word bank of say 5 to 8 word choices, I would make one question, duplicate this over and over again so I don't have to keep adding in these choices for students, if that makes sense. I also want to show you why else I like this one, but I have to click done. So I'm going to scroll down here, find my done. This one saves a lot of room. Okay, notice it takes up very little space. They just click, drag, and they have their choices. All right, let's get back into it. I'm going to double click this time, come down, and I am going to change it from a list to a scale. Let's take a look at the scale question. Here I have a choice of either using 0 or 1. I like using 0 when it's either they have no knowledge of, it does not apply. That is up to you. I'm going to keep it at 1. And then you have a choice of your most common scales of 5, 7, and 9, but then it allows you to break it down all the way up to 10. So here I'm choosing a scale of 1 to 10. For this question, how comfortable do you feel making forms? I'll put the first one as not at all. And the second one is I am a pro. And then I click done. We take a look at our scale. I really like that one also. All right, let's move on to the last one, the grid. I'm going to go ahead and open up this last question. I'm going to change it over to grid and give you a quick tour. With the grid, what this looks like, it's going to be a matrix on the top with columns, and you label them from 1 to up to 5. I like using this a lot for true false questions. In fact, that's the one I'm going to demonstrate here in a little bit, but you can have up to 5 choices. Then the rows, those are the ones I actually put the questions on. So I can have as many questions or rows as I want. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what this looks like. All right, I have mine all filled in. Answer true, false. I have a grid of 2 with my column labels, and I have 3 questions. Again, this one will not show up. And then I click done. Let's see what it looks like. Very nice table here with true false. These are radio buttons like before, so they can only choose one. Now I'm going to come up here and save. Before I let you go, I want to show you where you can take a look at what your form will look like in the end. Down here at the bottom, they give you a link. This is actually the link I use a lot when I want to distribute it. I'm going to click on it, and you get to see your wonderful form with no bells or whistles. Now, before you go on to the next podcast, I'd like you to make a sample form using each type of question. Have fun.